So let's now look at some practice problem. These are the problem from checkpoints of the book. So the first problem, are there any compile errors in A and B? So what is A doing here? This is prior to JDK 1.5, so that is before generics concept. So here we are creating an array list of dates, and then we are adding first new date object, then we are adding new string object, and we understand that there are no error because before generics the add method actually accepts the type of object, so any subclass of object is acceptable. And in B the code is since JDK 1.5, so this is with generics capability. Here, while we are creating array list, we must mention the type as well. So in the Angular brace, we are mentioning the type date. Then we are adding again, similarly add new date, and then we try to add a new string. So pause this video and think about in which one there will be a compile error. So let's analyze this problem a bit. Before generics, when we are creating an array list, everything is in object form. That means this add method accepts the type object. So when we are passing a date object, then a string object, there are no problem, there are no error. The problem will occur when we will actually start using those objects from array list. But here, when we are creating an array for a specific date object, and then first we are trying to add a date object, there will be no error. But when we will try to add the string object, it will give us a compile error, because now the array list code for this particular problem has the parameter type to be date, which does not match with our past type here. So the answer is in B there is a compile error, and that's what we want. We want to detect the error in compile time. The next problem, what is wrong in A? Is the code in B correct? So again, you can pause the video and think about it. So in A, which is prior to JDK 1.5, that means without generics, we are again creating an array list of named dates. Then we are adding a date object, so it has no problem. Then when we have this get method, so dates.get at the 0th index, whatever it will get here, it will try to assign it here in a separate date object. So since we actually added a date object and we are getting that particular object from the 0th position into a date type, so think if there is any error or not. Let's look at this code here in B. Again, this is using generics. So we have our own tailored array list class of date type. Then we are adding a date object, and then we are getting the 0th element, which is of the type date, which we trying to assign in another date object. So the code in B is correct. Let's check the the array list. Excuse me. So here the get of any index, specific index, the return type will be replaced with our prescribed type. But before generics, the get will return the type of object. So let's go back in our slide here. So here where this returns the type of object, which is a superclass, and when we try to assign a superclass into a subtype class, that's an error. So this is the error in A. We are trying to assign the type of a superclass into a subclass, which is not allowed. But in B, the get method returns the type date. So the type of this is date, and we are assigning this to a date object. So there are no error. The code in B is correct. So we have already seen the stack, so we can actually declare the class stack as this. So public class generic stack, and then in the angular brace we will put an E, and this is how we will use, instead of any specific type, for the peak the return type will be E, the pop the return type will be E. We will push a type of object E.